Here's Hernan Crespo, 2-0.
From the thunderous roar of the stadium to the silent moments that made history, from the dusty fields of Africa to the bright lights of the world stage, this is Sports Echo.
It's volleyed and it's in. And it's in. A goal in 50 seconds from Milan. And would you believe it? Paolo Maldini, the skipper, has scored it. Into Shevchenko, he's onside this time, he's got Crespo in support. Here's Hernan Crespo, 2-0. Hernan Crespo. Look at that from Kaká. And what a pass too for Crespo. And what a goal that is. What a goal that is. Hernan Crespo again. Sublime pass by Kaká. Well, now played for as well. Was Gerrard! Hello, here we go. Steven Gerrard puts a grain of doubt in the back of Milan minds and gives hope to all the many thousands of Liverpool fans.
There's also the quiz segment. On this show, we dive deep into stories behind the scores, the legends, the heartbreaks, the breakthroughs, and the unforgettable moments that shape sports as we know it today. And there's also the quiz segment where I ask questions, and if you get them, you're going to win something. Alright, from Nigerian golden goals to Olympic strokes to African giants that shook the world stage, this show is your backstage pass to the past. I'm going to be bringing you facts, voices, memories, and maybe even a few chills as we relive the moments that made fans scream, nations proud, and history take note. So whether you're in traffic or at home or you're just chilling with your radio, I promise you this, after today, you will never see sports the same way again. Alright, I welcome you in the name of the chairman of Melody 100.7 FM, Prophet Sam Adebayojo, Baba Authority, and also the general manager of Melody 100.7 FM, Eniola Afolabi, the sports marshal. The producer of the show is Pretty the Finest, Adegoke. And the studio manager for today is Adenike Adesue. And for Moses, is in charge of the engineering. A special shout out to Auntie Finn. She's also in the building right now. Alright, I'm Akinbobola, Egunfemi. Welcome aboard. Alright, we're currently live on Facebook at Melody 100.7 FM. You can go to our Facebook page, go on there if you want to see my fine face, and also don't forget to like, comment, and even share. And you can also check this program on YouTube. We're currently live on YouTube right now. Sport Echoes on Melody 100.7 FM. Less than 24 hours to the AFCON, and the first game is Morocco against Comoros. Morocco hosting other African countries. Rather, for Nigeria, they've landed at Fair, preparing for the game against the likes of Tanzania, Tunisia, and Uganda right there. But today on Sport Echoes, we are not just talking about football scores. We are talking about history, identity, and talking about moments that made entire nations cry, celebrate, and sometimes argue for generations. And when we talk about the African Cup of Nations, we're talking about the heartbeat of African football. But when we talk about AFCON finals, specific AFCON finals, that's where legends are born. And that's where careers are defined. And that's where a single goal can change the mood of millions of people at the same time. Think about it. From dusty pitches in the 1950s to packed stadium watched by the whole world today, AFCON finals have always been more than just 90 minutes of football. In 1957, when Africa hosted its first AFCON final, only 3 nations were involved. No big sponsors, no global TV deals, just pride, passion, and dream of showing the world that African football belong on the global stage. And fast forward to today, AFCON has 24 teams, world-class stadiums. Just to be specific, some countries though, like Morocco, ready to host other African countries, they have top-class stadiums. And some of the biggest names in global football. When you look at the recent African players, Osimhen, top star for Galatasaray, Mohamed Salah, Riyad Mahrez, Sadio Mane, couple of other players, Alexander Iwobi, Wilfred Ndidi, these are top stars. African football right now belong to the world stage. And some of these big names are in the global football. But despite all the changes, one thing has remained the same. The final always carries the weight of a continent. AFCON finals have united countries after political struggles. They have healed wounds after national tragedies, and sometimes they have reopened old football rivalries that refuse to die. In some finals, a nation announced itself to the world. In others, giants fell and underdogs rose. We've seen tears of heartbreaks. We've seen penalty shootouts that stopped hearts. We've seen players become national heroes overnight. And let's be honest, in Africa, football is not just a game. Because in Africa, football is culture, football is emotion, football is identity. That's why an AFCON final is never just a final. It's a story of where a nation has been and where it believes it's going. So today, for the next 40 to 50 minutes, we're going to be taking a journey through some of the most unforgettable AFCON finals since the tournament began, taking you back to some of the most unforgettable AFCON finals right there, from the early days to the golden eras to modern classics that still spark debate today.
flashy pictures are all that survive of the first African Championships in 1957. Only 3 teams took part in Khartoum, and it was Egypt who won the title.
That's an insert of the first AFCON finals, right there, 1957 AFCON finals. I mean, you heard it there, only 3 countries participated, and Egypt won the tournament. I mean, I was able to get, it wasn't clear, then no television, no TV rights and all of it, but I was able to get, a particular insert how the game was. It was so intense, so rough. People say modern football is physical, but then, all the players were running around really, really tough right there. To truly understand the African Cup of Nations, we have to begin from the beginning. We have to start from the beginning, before the glamour, before the packed stadiums, before AFCON became a global football event. 1957 was where it started, and 1957 AFCON final was between Egypt and Ethiopia. This was the first AFCON final in history. No one knew how big this tournament would eventually become. Only 3 countries took part: Egypt, Ethiopia, and Sudan. There were no qualifiers, no complex format, just pure pride and continental ambition. The final was played in Khartoum, Sudan, and it featured Egypt against Ethiopia. On paper, Egypt were already ahead. They had more organized football structures, more international exposure, and more experience, and on the pitch, it showed. Egypt dominated the final, winning 4-0, but the scoreline only tells part of the story. The real headline was a man, Mohamed Diab Al-Attah. He was popularly known as El Dibar. That night, El Dibar scored all 4 goals in the final. To this day, no player has ever scored 4 goals in an AFCON final. And that performance didn't just win Egypt a trophy, it announced African football to itself. It said, Africa has talent, Africa has stars, Africa has stories to tell. That 1957 final laid the foundation. It gave AFCON its first hero, its first champions, and its first piece of history. And after 1957, well, it all started. The next AFCON was 1959. Egypt versus Sudan. That was the final. Then, just 2 years later, AFCON returned, and this time hosted by Egypt. Once again, the format was simple. Once again, the competition was small, but the stakes were already growing. The final this time was between Egypt and Sudan, 2 nations that already shared political and sporting rivalry. Sudan came hungry, hoping to stop Egypt's early dominance, but Egypt, playing at home, had other plans. In front of their fans, Egypt won the final 2-1, lifting AFCON trophy for the second time consecutive time. Egypt, they got it the second time, so it was consecutive. The first one 1957, and the second one 1959. But this time they defeated Sudan. 1957, it was against Ethiopia, 4-0. El Diba was the man who did justice to that. But this time, lesser score, but they still did justice to winning it. But it was against Sudan in 1959. And that victory, Egypt became Africa's first football dynasty. And these early finals were not just about football, they were played at a time when African nations were still fighting for independence, still finding their identity, still trying to be heard on the world stage. So when Egypt lifted those early trophies, it wasn't just a sporting achievement, it was a statement. African football had arrived and it was here to stay. The 1957 and 1959 may not have had millions watching on televisions, but they gave Africa something priceless, a beginning. Without those finals, there's no modern AFCON, no packed stadium, and no global respect. You know what? Let's listen to the inserts of the 1959 finals between Egypt and Sudan, where it ended 2-1.
Now a little bit of history for you. What were you doing back in 1959? I know David alongside me certainly remember who took part in the cup final that year. It wouldn't be hard for him to remember. It was Nottingham Forest who beat Luton Town at Wembley, but in 1959 over in Cairo, these were the scenes as Egypt took the trophy for the second time. And indeed, I can actually tell you the goal scorers as well. Don't say we don't educate you on this program, as well as entertaining. The goal scorers from Egypt, Issam with a couple, one in each half, and they were beating Sudan here in the darker strip. That's one of the goals from Issam. Not a great performance there by the Sudanese keeper. And it finished 2-1. Just three nations taking part, incidentally. It was Egypt, Ethiopia, and Sudan. Those scenes from Cairo back.
Was how he ended in 1959. Egypt against Sudan, 2-1. Currently, Egypt have won 7 AFCON finals, making them maybe the most dominant team in the AFCON. But in recent time, they've not won it. When you talk about Mohamed Salah, El Neni, a couple of other top guys, Omar Mamouche, the recent time they've not won it. But talking about being the most celebrated, the dominant force in African Cup of Nations, have to give kudos to Egypt. But lately, they've been in the final. That was against Senegal. It turned out to be penalties. Senegal won that one. Alright, from Egypt's early dominance, African football began to evolve. More nations joined, competition increased, and soon a symbol of African football excellence emerged. That nation was Ghana. In the early 1960s, Ghana wasn't just building a football team, they were building a national identity from football. So 1963 AFCON final was between Ghana and Sudan. One big question is, where is Sudan? I mean, it used to be a top force back in the day, but right now, Sudan, I mean, they qualified to the AFCON. They're going to be playing in this AFCON, but they are not a global or even a top force in African football. But then, 1957, 1959, 1963, Sudan got to the finals all 3 times. I beg your pardon, just 2 times. That was in 1959 and 1963. First time it was Egypt against Ethiopia. Alright, the 1963 African Cup of Nations was hosted by Ghana just 6 years after independence. The message was clear. Ghana was ready to lead, not just politically, but in football. The final was played in Accra, and the atmosphere was electric. This wasn't just a football match, it was a celebration of freedom, pride, and African unity. Ghana faced Sudan in the final, and from kickoff, the Black Stars showed hunger, organization, and belief. And Ghana won the final 3-1. Convincing, dominant, and historic. That victory gave Ghana their first AFCON title, and instantly the Black Stars became a continental force. Football was now being used as a tool for unity, and the president at the time of Ghana was Kwame Nkrumah, who openly supported the national team, believing football could inspire confidence in a young nation, and it worked. And after 2 years, AFCON returned, this time in Tunisia. Now, Ghana were no longer underdogs, they were defending champions and targets. The final saw Ghana face Tunisia, the host nation, in a tense and physical contest. After 90 minutes, the game was locked at 2-2. That's 2-2, the crowd was loud, pressure was intense, the moment demanded champions. Then came extra time. In extra time, Ghana showed composure and experience. They scored and went ahead and sealed a 3-2 victory. With that win, Ghana successfully defended their AFCON title, something very few things had done at the time. Then it was only Egypt who defended their title. That was in 1959 when they did that. That 1965 final cemented Ghana's place in African football history. They were now 2-time African champions, Africa's most feared team, and the first true football dynasty in West Africa. And players of Ghana were the likes of Osei, Kofi, Edward Akwa, Agre Eyan became national heroes. But most importantly, Ghana proved something bigger, that African teams could develop structure, style, and dominance on their own terms. The Black Stars weren't copying Europe, I beg your pardon, they were creating their own football identity. As AFCON continued to grow, Ghana's golden era set the standard, and it challenged other nations to rise and adapt and compete. So trust me, some nations were watching very closely. We're moving straight to those countries that were observing closely. Talk about the likes of Nigeria, Cameroon, and DR Congo. As the African Cup of Nations moved into the late 1960s and beyond, one thing became clear: AFCON was no longer predictable. The early dominance of Egypt and Ghana had opened the door. The new nations were ready to walk it through. 1968 AFCON final was between the DR Congo and Ghana. In 1968 AFCON, it was hosted by Ethiopia, and the final delivered one of the first major shocks in the tournament history. Ghana, still regarded as the kings of African football, faced DR Congo. Then they were known as Congo Kinshasa. So it wasn't DR Congo, then it was Congo Kinshasa. Many expected Ghana to win, but football doesn't respect repetition, it rewards performance. DR Congo played with discipline, speed, and hunger. They neutralized Ghana's attacking threat and struck when it matters the most. The final ended 1-0 in favor of DR Congo. That victory announced a new football power in Central Africa. It also proved that AFCON was evolving. Dominance was no longer guaranteed. And then came Cameroon Rise, the indomitable Lions. By the 1980s, another force had emerged. Cameroon weren't just strong physically, they were tactically disciplined, mentally tough and fearless on the big stage, and Nigeria will come to know this all too well. And then 1984 AFCON final, Cameroon versus Nigeria. But you know what? Nigeria at that time had won the AFCON 1980. But it's special. I'm a Nigerian, trust me. I'll definitely go back to it. The final took place in Ivory Coast. That was the 1984 AFCON final, Cameroon versus Nigeria. The final took place in Ivory Coast. Nigeria entered the final full of confidence, with exciting talents and belief. But Cameroon had experience. They are still. Cameroon defeated Nigeria 3-1, out-muzzling and out-thinking the Super Eagles. For Nigeria, it was heartbreak. For Cameroon, it was the beginning of dominance. And 4 years later, history repeated itself.
جمع بين الكاميرون ونيجيريا في غياب الفريق المحلي كوت ديفوار.
Pour double Léa. Vraiment, il a calé. Ça me donne un fou rire. Moudalawal pour Edouard. Bien joué sur la James. Il centre bien. But du Nigeria. Premier but du Nigeria. Regardez, parti en profondeur. Il va faire la balle à retrait. Bel Antoine va manquer la réception. Et aucun arrière n'est là. Alors qu'il y avait deux arrières sur la ligne de but. Okala, qui avait laissé sa place pour 2 matchs pour Roubaix et qui est revenu pour cette finale. Alors que les Nigérians vraiment sont dangereux. Regardez là. Oh! Magnifique! Très agressif. Dans le bon terme. Dans le bon terme, oui, c'est ça. Très agressif. Abega qui est parti d'ailleurs. Qui a servi Jonker. Non, c'est Bongué en retrait. Le Camerounais qui accélère maintenant. Bravo là. Il y a bien une faute. Et la balle est bien par les Nigérians. Il laisse jouer. Il laisse beaucoup jouer. Mbida. Non, Mila. Abega. En dribble. Sur rabat au centre. Abega. Abega, toujours. Abega, Mila. Mila, Abega. Abega parti. Il va éviter le gardien de Bioko. Ce n'est pas vrai. Quelle action. Moudalawal. James qui joue pour Ariozu. Ariozu qui centre bien pour Clément Sédilé. Clément Sédilé retire en contrée. Et c'est une touche pour les Nigériens joué par Stéphane Keshi. L'entour de Stéphane Keshi. 50 pour Mila. Mila pour Ebongue. Ebongue qui va tirer. Troisième but du Cameroun. Une personne d'Ebongue. Je pense que ça ne va pas regarder. Ebongue qui a résisté à la charge de...
That was how it happened when Cameroon defeated Nigeria 3-1. One name the commentator continued to echo is Buja Lawal. He was part of the dominant class alongside the legendary Segun Odegbami, who won it for Nigeria in 1980. But this is 1984 when they lost the finals to Cameroon. You know what, the 1980, I'm coming to that. But before then, the 1988 AFCON final was Cameroon versus Nigeria. This time, the final was hosted in Morocco. Nigeria returned with hope and desire for revenge, but Cameroon struck first and defended with discipline. 2 finals, 2 defeats, same opponents. From Nigerian fans, these losses hurt deeply. Nigeria had talent, Nigeria had passion, but Nigeria lacked the final touch, composure under pressure. At the time, Nigeria were labeled the nearly men of Africa. But yes, the thing about football history, pain often comes before glory. Those defeats forced Nigeria to rethink, rebuild, and mature. As Cameroon celebrated and DR Congo announced their arrival, one thing was clear: AFCON had entered a new era, an era where no nation could rest on past glory, an era where every final demanded courage, character, and belief. And now straight to Nigeria, from heartbreak to glory, 1980 and 1994. In football, pain is never wasted. It either breaks you or it builds you. For Nigeria, those painful AFCON final defeats in 1984 and 1988 became the foundation of something greater. The 1980 AFCON final was between Nigeria versus Algeria. The 1980 African Cup of Nations was hosted right here, not right here, but in Nigeria, but Lagos to be precise. This wasn't just a tournament, it was a mission. Nigeria had reached the finals before, they had tasted defeat, but now they were playing at home in front of their people. The final was played at the National Stadium, Surulere, packed to the brim. Nigeria faced Algeria, a technically gifted and confident side. From kickoff, Nigeria played with authority. Goals came from Segun Odegbami and Mudashiru Lawal as Nigeria dominated the match. Final score: Nigeria 3, Algeria 0. Nigeria were crowned African champions for the first time. Streets were flooded with celebration. The Super Eagles were no longer nearly men, they were champions. You know what? Let's get to listen to the insights of the final when Nigeria defeated Algeria 3-0. Goals from Segun Odegbami and Mudashiru Lawal. Both of them dominated that game.
So through into Nigeria. Amesimaka. And that's Odegbami. And it's in the net. It is a goal. Segun got it. Can we take a look at that goal again? This is glorious. Let's take a look at that goal again. Well, player started again. Maybe we'll see that another time. Takes a very good chip. Waiting for a mistake. And a good one. Segun Odegbami, and he puts it in there again. It is a goal. Segun's second goal. Nations, and for the first time have missed it again. So Adoke and Mesiemaka, Aloysius and Isima, and he's still going on. That's good squaring, a header, and it's almost got no. That was a chance by Fogo. Oh no, Adoke. Several parts of the country. That's Christian Chukwu. In Ghana, David Adele. In Ghana, this is Africa Cup final, and Nigerians are having a really satisfying moment. Aloysius. Shegun. No, that's David. Beautiful play there by Muda. He just can't seem to take it easy. Muda is still going. Ooh! But for that little lapse, Muda was going to waltz himself right into the net. He got a corner kick for it anyway. Well, that is the long blast of the whistle to formally end the 12th African Cup of Nations. The main bowl. This has been the most successful match Nigeria has played in all this series. Yes, that's it. That is the president of the nation shaking the rattler. It's a really hysterical moment out there at the National Stadium. From the president, well done. You've done a good job, lad. And
that was a fantastic commentary right there. Segun Odegbami, Mudashiru Lawal, Kari Kana, Christian Chukwu. I mean, names, legends of the game. Nigeria defeated Algeria 3-0. Segun Odegbami scored 2 goals and Mudashiru Lawal scored 1. One thing that really struck me in that one was when Nigeria, close to the 90 minutes, were dazzling with the ball, and you could hear the fans right there in Lagos doing the popular I mean, but right now, do we even enjoy the Super Eagles of Nigeria? Do we enjoy their style of football? To scream that out, that's one big question right there. And leaving the 1980 final straight to 1994 AFCON final, Nigeria versus Zambia. 14 years later, AFCON delivered one of the most emotional finals in football history. The 1994 tournament was hosted in Tunisia, and Nigeria entered the final with one of the greatest generations, the likes of Rashidi Yekini, Emmanuel Amunike, Daniel Amokachi, JJ Okocha, but across from them stood Zambia, a nation playing for something far deeper than football. Just 1 year later, Zambia had suffered a tragic plane crash that claimed the lives of most of their national team. This final was about remembrance, about resilience, about honor. As Zambia struck first, sending shockwaves through the stadium, but Nigeria responded with character. Emmanuel Amunike scored twice, turning the game around. Final score, 2-1. As Nigeria lifted the trophy, there was joy, but also respect. The final reminded the world that African football can heal, unite, and honor the fallen. Nigeria had now won 2 AFCON finals, one built on home dominance, the other shaped by emotional strength.
Tegen Nigeria. Eagles en Iroa was een speler van Vitesse. Het gebied van Afrika waar ook Even schrikken dus. Maar toch mooi dat een finale zo kan beginnen. Pardon van Litana. Verrassend natuurlijk. Zo vroeg in de wedstrijd al, maar hij raakt de bal fantastisch, Litana. AJ Okocha nu met de corner. En daar is de gelijkmaker. Na 4 minuten al 2 doelpunten in deze finale. Amunike is degene die het doelpunt maakt. Verre corner.
So that was how we palmed out in 1994. You heard the name, Emmanuel Amunike, but the commentary was in French. Yes, and just because of our time, the quiz segment, I had to stop that right there. But Nigeria won against Zambia, 2-1. Zambia scored first, Nigeria scored 2 goals afterwards, and it was the same person, just like Segun Odegbami did in 1980. It was Emmanuel Amunike who got a goal for Nigeria. And if you think AFCON finals are only about tactics and talent, next stories will change your mind, because sometimes football feels scripted by destiny. 1996 AFCON final, South Africa versus Tunisia. The 1996 African Cup of Nations was hosted by South Africa, and it was unlike any AFCON before. This was South Africa's first AFCON appearance after the end of apartheid. The nation was healing, the nation was redefining itself. Football became a symbol of unity. In the final, South Africa faced Tunisia, with the stadium buzzing and the whole country watching. South Africa delivered. Goals from Mark Williams sealed a 2-0 victory. As South Africa lifted the trophy, it wasn't just about football, it's about inclusion, hope, a new beginning. A president at that time for South Africa, Nelson Mandela, famously embraced the team, a powerful image that echoed around the world. Fast forward to 2012, Zambia versus Ivory Coast. Zambia faced Ivory Coast, a team packed with stars. Didier Drogba, Yaya Toure, Gavinho. On paper, the final looks one-sided, but football doesn't read paper. After 120 tense minutes, the game ended 0-0. Then came penalties. So after the game ended, it 120 minutes. They played 90 minutes, then extra time, 15 minutes. They summed it up to 30 minutes. And they had to play penalties afterwards. Penalty after penalty, miss after miss. Then Didier Drogba missed a penalty. Zambia eventually won 8-7 on penalties. What made it even unbelievable, the final was played near Gabon, close to the site of Zambia's tragic 1993 plane crash. And that night, Zambia didn't just win a trophy, they completed a football prophecy. It was redemption written by fate. And we have modern classic finals, the likes of Senegal versus Egypt. Recently, I talked about it earlier in my introduction. Mohamed Salah and Sadio Mane, they were the 2 big stars of the clubs, right, of the countries right there. Every generation has a final that defines it. A final people will remember not just for the scoreline, but for the faces, the stories, and the stakes. For modern African football, the final is Senegal versus Egypt. AFCON 2021 final, Senegal versus Egypt. This final wasn't just a match, it was a battle of narrative. On one side, Egypt, 7-time African champions, a nation that knows AFCON finals better than almost anyone. And on the other side, Senegal, talented, respected, but still chasing their first ever AFCON titles after losing finals in 2002 and 2019. And there was a total, and there were 2 faces in the finals, Sadio Mane and Mohamed Salah. At that time, they were club teammates at Liverpool, friends off the pitch, rivals for continental glory. Africa stopped to watch. From the opening whistle, Senegal played with intensity and belief. They pressed, attack, and they played like a team, desperate to end years of heartbreak. Early in the game, Senegal were awarded a penalty. The moment was huge. But you know what? Sadio Mane stepped up. Millions watching. History waiting. but Egypt's goalkeeper Mohamed Abu Gabal, also known as Gabaski, made a save, and just like that, the pressure shifted. Egypt, as they always do, stayed disciplined. They defended with experience. They slowed the game. They dragged Senegal into mental battle. 19 minutes passed, no goals, extra time came, and still nothing. So once again, an AFCON final would be decided by penalties. One by one, players stepped forward. Every kick felt heavier than the last. And then the decisive moment came up. Sadio Mane stepped up again. This time, beg your pardon, it did not miss. Senegal won the shootout 4-2. At that time, history was made. Senegal were African champions for the first time ever. Sadio Mane, he collapsed to the ground. Tears flowed around the country, and the nation exulted. Alright, it's time for the quiz segment where I ask questions. The studio lines are 070-2520-107. 070-2520-107. You can as well call 070-5507-107. 070-2520-107. 070-5507-107. Hello. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
What's your name and where are you calling?
This is Michael from Gate.
Good afternoon, Mr. Michael.
Yeah, good afternoon.
How's everything going?
Yes.
Alright, just because of... Sir?
I said we thank God. Number 2.
Okay, number 2, just because of our time.
Yes.
Which African country hosted the first AFCON outside North Africa? The first country that hosted the AFCON, the first AFCON outside North Africa.
Nigeria?
No, it was Ethiopia in 1962. Yeah, you can do well to call back. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, my name is Jacob from Woodfair Road. How do you do, sir?
Good afternoon, Mr. Jacob. How's everything going?
Yes, sir. I'm fine. So, because of time, I pick question number 4.
Question number 4. This time, I hope you get it because it's quite easy. Okay, who scored the decisive goal in the 2013 AFCON final for Nigeria?
Emmanuel Amuneke.
Who scored the decisive goal in the 2013 AFCON final? Nigeria against
I said Emmanuel Amuneke.
No, it's
Emmanuel
not.
Amuneke.
It's not Emmanuel Amuneke. 2013 AFCON final. It was Sunday Umba.
2013 AFCON final.
Yeah, it was Sunday Umba who scored the final goal. You can do well to call us back. Thank you very much for calling.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, this is Moses from Akko.
Moses, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Alright, I hope this time you will not get because you always get it. Alright, pick it over.
Hopefully.
Pick it over from 1.
Let's pick number 7.
Number 7. Alright, so which country shocked Africa by winning the 1968 AFCON final?
1968
AFCON final.
I think Zambia.
You're wrong. It's DR Congo.
Oh, DR Congo.
Yeah, I said it earlier. So you can do well to call me back.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for calling. Zero 070-2520-107. 070-2520-107. You can as well call 070-5507-107. Hello. Good afternoon. Collins from Baggy.
Yes, sir.
Good. Okay. Pick a number just quickly because of the time.
Number 12.
Number 12. So I mentioned earlier in the show that one particular player scored 4 goals for Egypt in the 1957 final. Who was that man? His nickname? No idea. You can do well to call me back. The answer is El Diba. I said it. I laid emphasis on it. El Diba. Hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, this is Mike calling back.
Okay, Mike. Okay, pick a number.
Number 1.
Number 1.
Yes.
Okay, so which team has lost the most AFCON finals without winning?
Without winning.
Without winning. They've been to the finals and they've lost it the most times. No winner. Is Nigeria our country now? 5 final losses. I mentioned it, 84, 86. And they've had about 5 final losses. So it's Nigeria. Okay, final caller.
Hello, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Your name and where are you calling from? Last caller.
I'm Joel.
Joel. All right, pick a number.
Number 10.
Number 10. How many times have Cameroon won the AFCON?
Cameroon.
Yeah.
Okay.
How many times?
3 times.
3 times? No. You're wrong. It's 5.
Cameroon, I think it's 5 times.
Now pick a stance. How many times have they won it?
They have won 4 times.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Are you going to
4 times?
4 times? So it's 5 times. It's not 4 times. It's 5 times. You are wrong. You'd have picked 5 times. Thank you so much for calling. Alright, special thanks to Adenike Adesoye, who is the studio manager for today, and also Moses doing justice to the engineering. And yeah, big thanks to the producer of this show, Pretty the Finest, Adegoke, and also the general manager of Melody 100.7 FM, Eniola Afolabi, the sports marshal. And also special thanks to the chairman of Melody FM, Prophet Sam Adebayojo, Baba Authority. Thank you, sir, for this platform. I do not take it for granted. Although no winner, but if you want to reach out to me on anything as regards sports, or for even sponsorship on this program, my number is 081 11744 773. 081 744 773. Alright, until later today on Complete Sport, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. when I come your way again. I'm Akinbobola. Egunfemi. Good afternoon.
Melody
100.7.
I love this station. Melody 100.7 FM. Melody 100.7 FM.